Hey there, I'm Aaron Cheslock, and welcome into In Depth with Fox Carolina Sports. And boy, do we have a great guest to start the whole thing off. The head football coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks, Shane Beamer. First of all, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's certainly been a whirlwind since I got here in December, but been a lot of fun. And each and every day I get more and more excited about being the head football coach at Carolina and can't wait to continue to move this thing forward.
I'm curious, 2020 is going to be known infamously for a lot of us as a pretty bad year. And, we're all still kind of feeling the effects of it. My day started with changing diapers, and then I had to schedule a one-on-one interview with the head football coach of the Gamecocks at nap time. I got dishes to do after this. So my life certainly changed. But when I'm preparing for this interview and I'm looking back at the last few months for you, it's pretty incredible when you consider, you're named the head coach in early December, the hiring process before that. You coached the Big 12 championship game. You got National Signing Day thrown in there. You've had a bunch of turmoil with putting together a coaching staff. How have you mentally stayed sane throughout this entire process? And just like, what did I get myself into? I mean, I know that this is a dream job for you, but man, that's there's not a lot of break time in that.
No, there hasn't, and it sounds like you're doing a great job multitasking yourself. So much respect from on your end for you, or from my end for you. It's been a whirlwind. I mean, it's just kind of every day. I know when I first got the job back in December, a lot of people reached out, but I was still coaching at Oklahoma, obviously, and Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley both. The one thing that both of them said was you can't do it all in one day. You just got to kind of prioritize and just try and attack each and every day and get done what's the most important things to get done. And that's what I've tried to do. And every day is something different. When you're sitting in that head coach's chair, there's so many things that come across your desk each day that you don't expect to happen at the beginning of the day. I was kidding with somebody. I'm a morning person, and I get to work really early, try and work out, and then I get to my desk at an early hour, and then I've got my to-do list for the day. And then it seems like so many of those days I would get to like 9 o'clock at night and I had done nothing on my to-do lists because of all the different other things that come across your desk and during the day. But it's certainly been fun. And probably the most challenging part was just what you mentioned, where you feel like you kind of have the staff where you want it to be, and then something changes, and then it's starting over in a lot of ways. And then it's not just hiring the 10 assistant coaches and the strength coach. It's all the assistant strength coaches. It's the graduate assistants. It's the analysts, new life skills coordinator. So it's been a lot of balls in the air, but certainly running on adrenaline and just trying to capitalize and prioritize each and every day.
Yeah, caffeine can only do so much. So when you're,
That's right.
obviously Gamecock fans know you. You were here in the late 2000s. What's interesting is, if I got my information right, you're a recruiting coordinator who has a hand in bringing guys in like Alshon Jeffrey, Stephon Gilmore, DJ Swearinger, Marcus Lattimore, Connor Shaw. I mean, if we're talking about the Mount Rushmore of South Carolina football,
yeah,
these are all guys in contention for those four spots. Yeah, a really good year where you guys get to the SEC championship game, and then you leave, obviously, to go coach with your father. But then Carolina goes on the best 3-season stretch in their history. I'm curious, from your perspective, watching that all come together, having a hand in putting it all together, and then being away from the program while all that success is taking place. What was that like for you? Obviously, going to coach with your dad, I'm sure, was a dream. But I'm sure that you would have liked to have been in Columbia to kind of reap some of those rewards as well.
No, that's a great question. First person that's asked me that, actually. That's really good, and I've thought about that a lot. It's funny, my wife and I, before we came to South Carolina, we were at Mississippi State, and we struggled early on in the first 3 years at Mississippi State, never went to a bowl game, and then we come to South Carolina, and our very first year at South Carolina, Mississippi State has a fantastic season. They beat Alabama. They go to the Liberty Bowl, and we didn't go to a bowl game that year. My wife's looking at me like, really? And then we go to Virginia Tech, and Carolina goes on that run of over 3 years, and then not just in football too, but that was the second year of Coach Tanner and the baseball team winning back-to-back national championships. And the first year we were coaching at Carolina, and my wife and I said, man, Omaha and the College World Series looks awesome. Next time we're at a place where they go to the World Series, we're going to go with them. And then the very next summer, we're coaching at Virginia Tech, and Coach Tanner takes them back. And she's looking at me again like, really? So that was a battle in my own house. But we were certainly having good success. I think that first year at Virginia Tech, we went to the Sugar Bowl, so that made it a little bit easier. But absolutely, when you're watching the run that South Carolina went on during those first 3 years after I left, it was mixed feelings. I'll be honest with you. You're so happy for them. You're having success at the school you're currently coaching at, but you care about the kids at Carolina, and you care about the place at Carolina, and happy to see their success. But then I'm not going to lie, there's certainly a part of me that was like, man, I wish I was there for part of it as well. So absolutely, and proud of what we were able to accomplish. And you mentioned a lot of great players right there that we were able to bring in, and that's what has me excited is the resources at Carolina now are so much better than what they were then, to allow us now to bring in even more players like those guys and then some to try and take this program to a level it's never been before.
Obviously you made an impact on those guys because they were all voicing success for you to take over the program during the hiring process. What does that mean to you that even though you weren't there for a good chunk of a lot of their careers, that you made that much of an impact that they said, that's the guy that can help get South Carolina back to the place that they were in the early 2010s?
Yeah, just so humbling, to be totally honest. And I told my wife during the hiring process, she and I both, obviously this was a dream job for us and what we wanted to be or where we wanted to be. And I told her during the hiring process, as I started hearing from more and more of my guys, sorry.
I'm dealing with the same thing.
We may want to hold on 1 second.
Oh,
sorry.
This is the equivalent to live TV that we're going in the first episode of the In-Depth podcast. I love it. Even Coach Beamer has to deal.
Yes, my wife and dog just interrupted the Fox Carolina interview over the whole state. So back at it. Sorry about that. You may just continue talking?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. No, so it was very humbling hearing from so many of those guys, during the hiring process. Obviously, coming back to Carolina was a dream job for us and somewhere we always wanted to be. And I told my wife during the process how disappointed I would be and crushed if this thing didn't happen, but yet how rewarding it's been because I heard from so many former players, from NFL stars to former walk-ons that the casual fan doesn't know, and just reaffirmed to me why I coach. And that's, you care about these kids as people, and it was great because it just taught me the impact of just treating people right and just taking an interest in people beyond being a football player, the impact that can have on guys. And it wasn't like I was doing anything special when Marcus Lattimore and Connor Shaw and Patrick DeMarco and Alshon and Melvin Ingram and so many of those guys that spoke out, Torrey Gurley that spoke out on my behalf. It was really just trying to be the same person each and every day and be real and be genuine and treat people right. And I think that takes you a long way in life. And it showed with the way that those guys felt about me when I was there at Carolina with them, and then how they feel about me now.
When we're going to touch on a lot of different things here, but I want to start with kind of your early life. You were born in Charleston. Coach Frank Beamer, who's probably still the more well-known Beamer at this point, coaching at the Citadel at that point. You think about your dad. I'm from Baltimore myself, so my entire sports upbringing was pretty Baltimore-centric, Orioles and Ravens, and but even though I wasn't a huge college football fan growing up, I knew who Frank Beamer was, and I knew what Virginia Tech was, and just by putting that together, it was because of Coach Beamer. When did you stop being Frank Beamer's kid?
That's a great question. I don't know. I go back to when I first got into coaching. I played at Virginia Tech, and I could have stayed as a graduate assistant, but at Virginia Tech, I was just Coach Beamer's son, and it was important for me to get out and make my own name. So I left Virginia Tech and got into coaching, and I guess I was gone for 11 years, I think, before I came back. And a lot of that was to go out and try and make my own name, make my own connections, and be Shane Beamer, the coach, and not just Frank Beamer's son. So hopefully at some point during that early coaching career, some people started to know me as that. I think a lot of the players that we're recruiting right now, they're younger, and a lot of those guys don't know who Frank Beamer is. So I've definitely got kind of the younger crowd. Very proud of him and very proud of my last name, but all along it's been important to make my own name. But I was in the Columbia airport yesterday, and one of the TSA agents, as I was going through security, recognized me, and he recognized me as Frank Beamer's son, but you're also the new coach at Carolina. So that certainly kept me honest and will always keep me humble for sure.
After the first few wins, that'll change real quick. But I'm curious, growing up as a coach's son, there's a difference. I fell in love with football because my dad played in high school and we grew up watching games together. The same story as most guys around America. But there's a difference between being introduced to football as a youngster and being immersed or overwhelmed with football as a youngster. And I could see that going a couple different ways. I could see it, A, making it easier to fall in love with the sport, or B, just kind of like, all right, I can't wait to be done with this part of my life. I want to get away from it. What was it like for you, and when was the initial time that obviously you fell in love with football?
No, it's another great point. It's like the story of my life right here, the things you're asking. One thing that my mom and dad both did, they never pressured me to play football. I enjoyed a lot of sports growing up. I played football in fourth grade. My dad was the head coach at Murray State out in Kentucky. So I played as a fourth grader. And then we moved to Blacksburg when I was in fifth grade to Virginia Tech. And I didn't play football again until eighth grade. And a lot of that was because of what you just said. I felt like so many people just expected me to be a football player because my dad was the head coach at Virginia Tech, and expected me to be a great football player because my dad was the head coach at Virginia Tech. I still remember as like a fifth grader going out and watching my buddies like on their little Pop Warner or Little League team. And I still remember the coach coming up to me because I wasn't playing, and he said to me, "Why aren't you out here? You should be out here playing on our team. Your dad's the coach at Virginia Tech." And I don't know. I don't know if resented is the word, but I just said, I'm going to play football when I want to play football because it's something that I'm passionate about. So I played basketball and baseball more growing up. When we moved to Virginia, the closest Major League Baseball team was the Orioles. So I love baseball. I remember going up to Baltimore and going, yes, sir. I remember going up there to Memorial Stadium, the old Memorial Stadium, when our first summer in Blacksburg. Camden Yards opened up, shortly thereafter. And Johnny Oates was the old manager of the Baltimore Orioles, and he was actually a classmate of my dad's at Virginia Tech. So we used to go to Orioles games all the time, and I loved basketball and baseball and really enjoyed playing those sports and continued to play them through high school. But then I guess when I was in eighth grade, started playing football again, and then throughout high school, and that happened to be what I was best at, that gave me a future in sports past high school. But enjoyed all sports, still do to this day. But that's a great point. I mean, it was a lot of I was Shane Beamer's son anytime I was on the football field. I mean, Frank Beamer's son, anytime I was on the football field. And because of that, even to this day, I had somewhat of a chip on my shoulder of trying to prove people that I belonged and that I, wasn't just out there because of my last name and who my dad was.
You're on the 1999 Virginia Tech team. How incredible was Michael Vick to watch in person that entire season? Just for football fans across the country, we look at the athleticism and we marvel about what we saw on game day. I'm curious, just what you saw and when it clicked that, oh my goodness, this is something special.
Incredible. What people don't realize is Michael was a freshman at Virginia Tech in 1998 and redshirted. And, we lost in 98. We were pretty good that year at Virginia Tech. We lost 3 games all in like the last minute. Syracuse and Donovan McNabb threw a touchdown pass on the last play of the game to beat us. We got upset by Temple at home, and then we blew a 3-touchdown lead to Virginia. Sorry. Yeah. Got dogs, people coming in and out of the house. Well, I should have done this in Columbia. You need me to start from the beginning, or
yeah, keep going? We're leaving us all in. This is great.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah, so this is what it's really like to be an SEC
the whole
football
point
coach.
of this is to get to know Coach Shane Beamer off the field, and boy, are we getting to know him right now.
Yeah, well, we're trying. I'm in Oklahoma right now. We're trying to sell a house. Some things in the inspection didn't go right, so we got hammering going on in the background, dogs going crazy. But no, with Michael, so we lost 3 games that year and ended up beating Alabama in the Music City Bowl like 38-7. We were really, really good. And my dad and the coaching staff had promised Michael's high school coach that we would redshirt him that year. So that whole season, we got down to our 3rd-team quarterback because our starter and our backup got hurt. And you're sitting there looking on the sidelines, and there's Michael Vick, but he's not playing. So you saw it in practice what he could do, but you know this from being in sports, until you get out there in the games, it's different. And you know, most college teams, and we were no different at Virginia Tech, you didn't hit the quarterback in practice, you didn't tackle him. So you saw Michael throw and you saw the athleticism, but you didn't really get a full dose and reality of what the athleticism was really like. And I remember 1999, I mean, we opened up with James Madison, and it was just like, wow. When you see him out there, like actual game speed against these other defenses, and that whole season, just him. I mean, I was talking with somebody earlier about a week ago about that game against Clemson. We played Clemson up in Blacksburg on a Thursday night, and really won big. You know, Brandon Streeter, Clemson's quarterbacks coach. Brandon was the quarterback for Clemson that night. Make sure you ask Brandon about that night in Blacksburg. We talk about it often. But that was one where it was like, you know what, we may be pretty good after that game. And then just storybook, that was my senior year in college. So to be able to share that kind of season with my dad was something I'll never forget. And very grateful for that, and very grateful to be able to watch Michael Vick up close and personal for an entire season like that.
You go into coaching, and 2 decades of being an assistant coach now, and you've been to so many programs, you've seen so many things. I'm curious a couple things on this. First of all, you know, being part of Kirby Smart's start at Georgia and then Lincoln Riley's start at OU, and seeing the progress they've made with both of those programs. Obviously, they're both nationally known programs. They're, you know, the perennial powerhouses. But to see how they built things, what have you learned from that, and how much confidence does that give you coming back here to South Carolina?
No, that was huge for me. I feel like I've grown so much as a coach just in the last 5 years, especially. You know, when I was here before, I felt like I was, you know, decent as far as a coach, and then going to work for my dad at Virginia Tech, and the roles that he put me in were great. But to be able to go to Georgia, Kirby Smart's first year, was fantastic for me because, you know, everybody talks about Nick Saban and that process and his organization. Well, you know, let's be real. Kirby brought that from Alabama to a T. But so I was able to see it implemented, but also the whys, like why we're doing this, why Coach Saban does this. That was great for me. And then also the fact that Kirby was a first-time head coach at a young age. And then going to Oklahoma, same thing with Lincoln. Obviously, from an offensive standpoint, all I learned from him from coaching offensive football. But then just the seeing him as a first-time head coach that still is – he's a lot younger than me, and was really young when he got that job. So just seeing those guys in their early on in their careers, the mistakes they made, but then also the things they did well, but then also how they elevated those programs as well. So I've certainly been at Carolina before and saw us winning and recruiting at a high level. So there's a lot of things that I won't change from what we did before, but then I've learned so much from those guys, and then the other head coaches and programs that I've been around also, that will allow me to implement a lot of that in Carolina the second time around.
What are the differences you've seen in South Carolina from really just not just the program or the school, but Columbia, you know, even from the low country over to the upstate? What are the differences you've seen since you've been gone for about a decade?
Oh, man, so much. I mean, I feel like Columbia has continued to grow and has developed, and just there's so much new in Columbia, which is exciting. Driving around and just in the 10 years since we lived there, new areas, new developments, areas of town that have been, renovated and have been fixed back up that are great places as well. The minor league baseball stadium. I mean, there's so many cool things going on in Columbia right now, which have me excited. And then just there's so many new facilities, obviously on campus, some of the new buildings that have been constructed within the university, the new athletic facilities, not just the football facility we're in that's as good as anywhere that I've ever been in my entire career or seen from a football facility standpoint. It's second to none. But then the things around that as well that have been built on campus, all the athletic facilities. So the resources are fantastic. Coach Tanner and his leadership at athletic director, he wasn't the athletic director when I was here before, so some of the things that he's done. President Caslin, our president, he's an athletics guy from having played football when he was in college at West Point. And so really excited about the leadership we have, the resources, and then just the way that, everything continues to grow and grow for the better in our area.
When you look at your path back to South Carolina, so many stops, so many different programs. What are the things that stand out to you? You said earlier that you think you've grown as a coach over the last 5 years. I'd assume Coach Riley has a large hand in that. Some specific things that you can take from the success that you've had at other places that you can try to implement here?
It's a great question. I mean, just the programs I've been around and then the people that I've been around. Like for Oklahoma, for example, seeing Lincoln Riley at a young age, it was a great learning experience for me. I mean, he's not only the head coach, he's also the offensive coordinator. He's also the quarterback's coach. Like he doesn't have a quarterback's coach. He is the quarterback's coach. So seeing how he was able to, balance his time and be able to do both those jobs was really beneficial for me to watch that. Oklahoma's a program that there's not a lot of players in the state of Oklahoma that sign Power 5 scholarships each year, less than what there is in South Carolina. So because of that, we had to really broaden our network as far as recruiting and recruit nationwide. And seeing how we were able to do that and do that at a high level was great. And at Georgia, just the whole organization and the structure and it's a recruiting machine, and just seeing how that was set up. I really grew as a coach during that time. And then Kirby, Kirby's very demanding. I consider him a friend. He's very demanding, but he made me a better coach. And that not always just don't necessarily listen to how the message is being delivered by him, but really listen to what he's saying. And that made me better, really just kind of rethinking how I teach, how I run every meeting, all the things that go into it. And then I was fortunate at Virginia Tech, my first stop after I left Carolina, just the different roles that my dad had me in. I was the associate head coach all 5 years, so I had to handle a lot of the day-to-day duties of being the head coach. I had a month where my dad was out and didn't coach in a bowl game or the bowl prep because of some health issues, and I was the interim head coach for a month. Just sitting in that chair, even though it was only a month and it was just a bowl game, was beneficial and really helped me to grow in that time. And I just think in life, you got to get out of your comfort zone a lot to grow. And that was part of the reason my family and I left Athens to come to Oklahoma, was from a personal family standpoint, to kind of get out of our comfort zone and grow as a family. But they also helped me, grow as a coach. And I've certainly been able to do that in the last 5 years, especially getting out of, quote unquote, that comfort zone that I was in and growing from there.
You don't have a lot of downtime right now, but hopefully at some point you will. What does Shane Beamer do when he's not putting together a game plan, when he's not out recruiting, when he's not doing all the multiple tasks that come with being a SEC head coach?
Really, Honestly, I love just spending time with my family, and that's not just saying it because it's what I think people want to hear. I mean, I really do. We enjoy being around each other. We love traveling as a family. Thankfully, my oldest is 12. Our oldest child is 12, and our youngest is 7, and they're still at the age where they like being around mom and dad and think we're somewhat cool. So love spending time with them. The more I can integrate them into work, the better, whether it's coming up to the facility and things like that and being around. I was able to learn and see that from Lincoln Riley, just the emphasis on family. And then from a personal standpoint, I like to play golf. I don't play nearly as much as I did when I was here on the staff with Coach Spurrier. When I was here before with Coach Spurrier, it was probably 7 days a week of golf, so I don't play nearly as much. But I enjoy getting out, and my kids are getting to the age where they like going out and at least playing or driving the cart. And then I love to read. That would be a hobby of mine. I try and read as much as I can. So those family, playing golf, and reading, I like doing that. And then like I said earlier, I'm a fan of all sports. And if there's a sporting event on, I'm probably watching it. And hopefully my son or daughter or wife are sitting there with me.
Well, hopefully, from a pro baseball standpoint, you're still an Orioles fan because we need all the help we can get.
Yeah.
As we get ready to wrap up here, I want to get a couple thoughts from you. There's probably someone listening to this or watching this podcast right now that perhaps has hopes of being a coach one day, just aspirations. You've gone through every rung of the ladder. 21 years as an assistant coach, now getting your first crack at a major program. What should they know about going into this profession? What advice would you give? And, I mean, was there a point where head coach maybe wasn't the goal for you, or was this always the end point? It just, was a zigzag way to get there?
No, it was always the goal, and I'm a man of faith and believe, I've always believed that God has a plan and things will work out when the timing is right. And I know it's cliche, but just tried to, prepare every day and do the very best I could in the job that I had, but also always preparing for that day if it ever came, what I would want to do and how I'd want my own program to look. So certainly that was the way that I worked. And then, the thing I would say is just trying to, along the journey, just trying to treat people right and understanding that, back when I was an assistant coach at South Carolina before Eric Hyman, our previous athletic director, he gave me a book by Bob Bodine called The Power of Who. And I remember reading it, and it was a fantastic book because it's just about the people you work with each and every day, the people you're around. They're the ones that are going to help you. And this isn't just in coaching, but this is any industry. They're going to be the ones that help you when it comes to like advancing your career and getting jobs, because people are going to call them. And I think sometimes you think that, okay, if I'm working at Georgia for Kirby Smart, that I better impress Kirby Smart because Kirby Smart's the one that's going to help me get a job. And yes, part of that is true, but it's also all the other people that you come in contact with in every facet of your life. And it was it was a powerful book from that standpoint, and just, treat people right and do a great job in the job that you're in. And as long as you do that, people notice and things will take care of themselves. And every single day is a job interview. Somebody's always watching you and forming an opinion and evaluating you. And then the thing I would say also is just it's a grind. I mean, I think people in college coaching in general, they see Saturday afternoons or Saturday nights in front of 80,000 people. And yeah, that's fantastic. But there's also, 350 plus days a year where it's not that. And there's a lot of highs and lows. There's a lot of time in college coaching in particular because of recruiting. There's a lot of times that you're spending in hotel rooms away from your family and things like that. So there's certainly a lot of sacrifices you have to make and your family has to make as well. But it's certainly very rewarding. It's something that ever since I've gotten into it, I've loved every day of it. There've been high moments, there've been low moments, but never once have I doubted my decision to be in it. And so thankful and blessed to be in the position that I'm in right now, and very fortunate for the roles that I've had that have led me to this point.
All right, as we get set to wrap up here with Coach Shane Beamer, you're learning the roster. You're just now getting your coaching staff together. Game planning's going on, spring practice around the corner. For Gamecock fans that are watching or listening to this right now, knowing all the unknowns that you still have in front of you, what can you tell us about Gamecocks football going into the fall and moving forward?
Probably the biggest thing is just how I'm more energized today than I was back in December when I got this job. And I was certainly energized then because it was a dream come true being named the head football coach at Carolina. But in the 2 months, regardless of any adversity, bumps in the road, anything like that that we've had, the one thing that hasn't wavered is just the mentality of the players in that building. And it's a really, really good group of young men in that building that are working really, really hard right now to be successful. They're energized. They're excited. I'm excited. I can't wait. I can't wait to get to work every single morning when I wake up and be around the players. And I don't think that's always the case. I mean, I know of coaches that have taken jobs and they get in there and they're like, man, it's a mess. And there's all these players that we've got to get rid of and yada, yada, yada. And that's not the case. I mean, it's a great group of young men that we have in there that are working hard. Do we have a lot of work to do? Yeah, absolutely. But I've, never been more excited, energized, fired up, and committed to get this thing done than right now, and really excited about where we are and where we're going as well.
Well, I'll tell you from our perspective here in the local media that the amount of availability you've made of yourself so far in this short tenure has been certainly appreciated. It's exactly the thing that kind of helps us do our job a little bit better, because it stops assumptions. It stops guessing. So we certainly appreciate that. From a local media standpoint, and we certainly appreciate you joining us here for In Depth with Fox Carolina. Coach Shane Beamer, hopefully you get a nap in your future. Take that dog out for a walk, and hopefully you get on a golf course somewhere down the line here.
No, absolutely. I appreciate you having me. I really enjoyed it, and thanks for all you do, and much respect for that. And we're certainly in this thing together, and doors are always open in Columbia. Thanks a lot.
Coach Shane Beamer, the head coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks, thank you for joining us here on In Depth with Fox Carolina. We'll see you back here next week with another very special guest. Take care.